Friends, I am Sanjay Mansukhani from changedestiny.in, and I am a teacher of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Dear friends, today we will look at one of the unique powers of a yogi, and that is a yogi has the power at the higher stages to create multiple bodies and to add on multiple minds to control those bodies. Yes, dear friends, it seems surprising, but it is one of the unique powers which a yogi has, which can be put to use. Let us look at what it exactly is. There are two sutras about this in the 4th chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and these specifically are Sutra number 4 and Sutra number 5. In Sutra number 4, it says that a yogi can create minds, and these minds are actually an evolution of the yogi's ahankara, the yogi's ego. Now this is one of the siddhis, and this is said to be attainable by most of the accomplished yogis. And here an individual yogi has the ability to create number of personal bodies, and what it means is a yogi may end up with 3 bodies, 5 bodies, 7 bodies, any number of bodies. Now these bodies, the commentators on the Yoga Sutras say, and there seems to be some sort of an understanding among them, that all these bodies, each one of them has an individual chitta, and or do they have one chitta which is controlling all these bodies? Now there has been a consensus, and that consensus is that each of the bodies which has been created by a yogi has its own individual mind, and all these minds which have been individually created and put in those different bodies, they all are manifested from the one and same ego, and all of them, all the multiple minds are subordinate. They come under the supervision of that yogi's ego. We may recall that as per the yogic sciences, chitta is broadly a term which refers to 3 tattvas, 3 principles: buddhi, ahankara and manas. Buddhi means the intellect, ahankara means the ego, and manas is the mind as we know it. So chitta is a manifestation of all these 3 together. That is what the Sankhya physics, the Sankhya metaphysics put forward by Kapila Muni says. Now it seems, as per this, that a yogi through his ahankara, through his ego, can manifest multiple minds rather than just one mind. Now if I look at my own self, I definitely have an ahankara, and this ego of mine has given rise to only one mind, and this ego of mine has given rise to only one set of sensory perceptions, and this ego of mine has given rise to only one set of senses of action. But when a yogi creates multiple bodies, then how come these multiple bodies come out? They come out because the same one ahankara creates multiple minds, multiple sets of senses of perception, and multiple sets of senses of action, and therefore multiple bodies. So each of these bodies has an independent existence. They sense independently, they act independently. So what it means is, say body 1 of a yogi might be busy in meditation. The body 2 of a yogi might be busy in walking on the street. The body 3 of a yogi may be involved in doing a running exercise. The body 4 of a yogi might simply be sleeping. And the body 5 of a yogi might be taking a bath. So dear friends, all these 5 bodies with their independent senses of perception and senses of action are being run by 5 independent minds. But all these minds, they have come out of the main ahankara, the main ego of the yogi, and these are subordinate bodies. These are subordinate minds which are controlled by the main yogi and his main ahankara. Now Shankaracharya, who has also commented on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, he has said it is important that each body which a yogi has produced must have an independent mind. If each of these bodies had a common mind, say these 5 bodies had the same common mind, so it would have created a very funny situation. It would have created a situation where all these 5 bodies would have acted together like a puppet. They would have received the same sensory input. That same sensory input would have been processed by one mind, and that one mind would have probably issued the same instruction to their organs of action, and the same action would have been performed by these 5 bodies of the yogi. So then what is the point of having 5 bodies? Why create 5 bodies if they cannot function independently? So that is exactly the point which Shankaracharya has raised. Therefore he points out these 5 bodies, which would have behaved like synchronized puppets if there was only one mind, does not make any sense. So here a yogi is able to independently create the body and place them with an independent mind, and all these minds are working independently with the bodies, but they have been created out of the same ahankara. The same ahankara, as per the Sankhya metaphysics of Kapila Muni, ahankara creates a mind. So in a normal case, an ahankara would create one mind. But in this case, the yogi with his siddhis, with his yogic powers, with his ability to control prakriti, control nature, a yogi is able to create more than a single body, put more than a single mind in all these bodies, and put them into simultaneous action. Now here, another important commentator, say Vijnana Bhikshu, he says, look at Vishnu. Vishnu as the Ishvara. He has complete awareness of his divine nature. And if you look at his incarnation, if you look at his avatar, Rama, then Rama, though an avatar of Ishvara, though an avatar of Vishnu, he was not aware of his divine nature. So definitely the mind of the original Vishnu and the mind of Rama as an incarnation of Vishnu has a difference, has a gap. Rama is not having the same mind as Vishnu, though he is an incarnation of Vishnu. So this is a point to prove that when an incarnation comes, when another body comes, it will come with its own mind. It will not have the same mind as the original mind of the yogi, but it has got produced, it has got evolved out of the original ahankara of the yogi. So this is a very important point to note here. So therefore, all the commentators who have commentated on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, because as you know, the sutras are very short, concise statements. Patanjali never gave any explanation about these sutras. So whatever we know, whatever we understand about these sutras, dear friends, it comes from the commentators. Over thousands of years, many commentators have applied their minds, have understood the sutras and shared their wisdom, their knowledge with us. So all the commentators have agreed that a yogi is possible for him to have multiple bodies. It is also possible for a yogi to have different experiences in each one of these bodies. One body may be practicing austerities. There would be another body which would be experiencing the objects of the senses. So one body might be in yoga, the other body might be in bhoga. So that is a very important concept here. There is somewhat similar discussion which takes place even in the Vedanta Sutras, and here the metaphor is given that of a lamp. You see, a lamp can light numerous individual and separate wicks, and each one of those lamps are then able to exhibit their own light. They are able to show their own light. Similarly, the other example is that a yogi with his consciousness and control over Prakriti is able to create multiple bodies and multiple minds. So he is able to create, one can say, from one diya, he is able to create multiple diyas, and he is able to light up all those diyas from the first primary diya, from the first primary body and ahankara of a yogi. And that is the way a yogi can manifest multiple bodies and multiple minds. Going further, if one refers to the Bhagavata Purana, there is an interesting story here, and this story is deeply connected in a way to yoga, the yoga philosophy, because the yoga philosophy has its roots in the Sankhya philosophy of Kapila Muni. And this narration, which is given in the Bhagavata Purana, is connected to Kapila Muni, the founder of the yoga philosophy, the founder of the Sankhya philosophy on which the yoga philosophy is based. So the story here goes about the siddhis possessed by sage Kardama. Kardama was a sage who was living on the banks of the Saraswati river, and he had accepted the hand of the princess Devahuti, and he had done it on one condition, that the moment a son is born to both of them, he will depart from the forest. And our Devati here, though she was a princess, she was used to staying in a palace in tremendous comfort. But just because here she was with Kardama, who was a sage and who was living as a hermit, so she served her husband in a simple ashrama with complete love and dedication. And out of this love and dedication, out of this extreme service, she became very weak and emaciated. And she was also doing her tapasya, she was also doing her spiritual practices. Eventually, Kardama's heart got won over by Devuti's love, care, dedication and spiritual practices. So this renounced and reclusive sadhu determined to help her fulfill the desire to have a son from him. Now, using all the mystic powers which we know the yogis have, all the siddhis which the yogis have access to, he manifested a grand palace, and this grand palace was filled up with precious gems and all manner of grandeur and opulence. And he now even arranged for Devahuti to regain her former beauty, in order to help his wife, in order to fulfill her desires, who was longing for sexual pleasure, the sage then exhibited this power which Patanjali is referring to in the fourth sutra of the fourth chapter of the Yoga Sutras. He, out of his single body, he was able to create 9 personal forms, 9 bodies. And then he went about to satisfy her completely using these 9 bodies. So here is an example from the Bhagavata Purana about an yogi who acquires multiple bodies to fulfill his wife's sexual needs so that she could have a son, and he, as promised, could leave for the forest. Now the interesting part here is the son who was born to Devahuti, he eventually bore the name of Kapila. And this Kapila, as I told you earlier, he was the sage who gave us the Sankhya doctrine. Now there is a talk in the tradition that there were actually 2 Kapilas. There is one Kapila who was mentioned in the Svetara Upanishad, who received his instructions from Shiva. And there is a mention of another Kapila who is accepted as an incarnation of Vishnu. And this is also accepted in the Mahabharata, in the Gita, and the Ahara Buddhanya. But both these Kapilas, they were there in their theistic concepts. They had a version of Ishvara in their philosophy of Sankhya. But after certain number of years, probably more than 1,000 years, we come across a Sankhya which has been given to us by Ishvara Krishna Sankhya Karika. This Ishvara Krishna Sankhya Karika is non-theistic. There is no tattva of Ishvara in this. And all the Sankhya schools after that are practitioners of the non-theistic Sankhya version. But we all know that Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras, in the first chapter on Samadhi, has brought in Ishvara as one of the powerful tattvas to achieve liberation from Prakriti. He has put in the concept, the tattva of Ishvara, to completely purify the mind. And he has said Om, the symbol, the mystic symbol Om, is the representative of Ishvara. And by chanting repeatedly and by reflecting on the meaning of the Om symbol, one is able to achieve higher and higher consciousness. And it also removes all the distractions of the mind. It purifies the body. It removes all the rajas and tamasic elements in us, and the mind becomes sattvic. So Ishvara is a very important concept, and the Kapila which we were referring to, the son of Devahuti, who is considered as an avatar of Vishnu, is credited with one of the Sankhya doctrines. And in my personal opinion, Sankhya philosophy, though being the first philosophy from India, is one of the most powerful of philosophies. And if one is able to understand these 25 tattvas of Sankhya, then virtually one can do anything in this creation, because the theory of the evolution of creation has been explained by Kapila in Sankhya Darshan. The theory of causation, of cause and effect, of Satkaryavad has been explained by Kapila Muni in Sankhya Darshan. He has also given in very simple terms how to achieve permanent happiness in one's life. So Sankhya is a very important darshan, and anybody who is interested in yoga, in the Yoga Sutras, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, must read, must understand, and if possible practice the Sankhya darshan. Now, the next sutra, which is the fifth sutra on this particular topic by Patanjali, he says that there is just one mind, and this one mind is among the many minds which have been created by the yogi, but this one mind is the director of the different activities of the different bodies. So he is placing one mind at a primary stage, at a primary level, at a hierarchical higher level, and he calls it the director mind. This mind is controlling all the other minds. Now this is important, because if this is not done, if there is not a single director mind controlling the minds of all the bodies of a yogi, then there would be disharmony, there would be conflict in the operation of these various bodies and their minds. And this is the argument which is given forth by Vakaspati Mishra. So what this sutra essentially indicates is that though the yogi is able to create an individual mind for each body which he or she is creating for himself, all these bodies are operating under the guidance or control of one principal mind. It is called Prayojakas Chitam. Just as this one mind can control the multiple limbs of one body, similarly the subordinate minds which have been put into these various bodies, created bodies, they also have to be controlled. Hence, what has been said here is, and this is again a very important, I would say, aspect to understand. Mind is potentially omnipresent. This is what Hariharananda, one of the later day commentators, he reminds us and mentions this. He says mind is omnipresent. And so if mind is omnipresent, if mind is everywhere, then where is the question of a mind being far or near to each other? All minds in all the bodies are connected to the same mind, so there is no question of being far or near, and therefore there is no impediment, there is no obstacle for that single mind to be present, to be there as a manifestation in multiple distinct bodies. Now this again is a very important point, a very interesting aspect. You see, we had seen that the Mool Prakriti creates the Mahat. The Mahat is the cosmic mind. From this cosmic mind comes out the individual minds. This individual mind, essentially in the first stage, appears as an individual intelligence. So the cosmic intelligence is there, and at the individual level there is an individual intelligence, and both of them are identical. Only the scale is different, the quantity is different. At the Buddhi level it is individual intelligence, at the Mahat level it is cosmic intelligence, though they are the same in quality but not in quantity. Now this Mahat is common to all the individuals. This cosmic mind is common to all the individual minds, because all the individual minds are coming out of this cosmic mind, this Mahat mind. Therefore a yogi, if he is able with his sadhana to bring back his awareness from the world outside, from the Panch Mahabhutas to the five senses, the five sense organs, further into the mind, further into the ego, further into the intellect, and further into the cosmic mind. So here when he reaches the stage of the cosmic mind, it is possible for him to create and enter multiple bodies with his mind, multiple bodies with multiple minds, and all of them are though controlled by the same ahankara, same ego, as we saw in the fourth sutra of this chapter. So dear friends, this is a very interesting aspect which has been brought out by Hariharananda. The controlling mind is the only one perfected mind of this yogi. Vijnana Bhikshu makes this comment, and he says the intention of this perfected mind of the yogi is only one, and that is to govern the activities of all the other minds present in all the other bodies. Thus, through these multiple bodies, the yogi can engage in multiple experiences simultaneously. Interesting. A yogi can have multiple experiences simultaneously. And it is also true that he has the ability to withdraw all these bodies back into his original form, the way the sun withdraws its rays as it is about to set. Similarly, a yogi, after having created multiple bodies, multiple minds, having experienced multiple things individually in multiple bodies, but at the same time, that's an individual experience, but that experience is happening at the same time. So, dear friends, once he has done that, then it is possible for a yogi to withdraw back, to go back into his original body, to do away with all the bodies he has created, to do away with all the minds he had created, and now he is back into his original body with his own original mind, original ahankara, and the original buddhi. So it is the original chitta again at work. So siddhis are those powers where a yogi, because of his power of samayama, samayama is a power which a yogi acquires when he sits for dharana, dhyan and samadhi simultaneously together, one by one. Or dharana here is concentration, samadhi here is meditation. Dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation, and samadhi is deep absorption of the mind. So when these three are done simultaneously, the yogi enters into the state of samayama. In the state of samayama, the intuition of the yogi is very strong. He has those truth-bearing sanskaras present in us. He is having an access to pragya, intuition. He can see beyond what other people normally see and perceive and observe. So with that knowledge, he acquires supernatural powers, and these supernatural powers manifest as siddhis in a yogi. And when these supernatural powers start working inside a yogi, he is able to shift his awareness to higher and higher levels. He is able to pull his attention from the outer world to the inner world and further in till there is no prakriti for him to transcend. Everything is gone. And he reaches the state of the pure Purusha, the pure Atma, the pure soul. So dear friends, it is only by sadhana that a yogi comes back from the outer world to the inner world and to the spiritual world. And the purpose of yoga is the journey back. And the purpose of birth is the journey forward, where we are born and we reach into the world and we become attached to the world outside. So these are two parallel but opposing paths, reverse paths. Life will take you towards the world. A yogi will go back to his source, will go back in evolution and will go back to where he came from. And as he does this journey, he acquires more and more powers, more and more siddhis. So this is what the journey of yoga is all about. And we saw here in detail one of the siddhis about creating multiple bodies, multiple minds, controlling them with a single ahankara, controlling them with a single mind. And once it is not required, a yogi pulls back and all the bodies are gone, all the minds are gone. So dear friends, we come to the end of today's talk. Thank you so much for being here. The purpose of our talk is very simple. We want to spread the awareness of this yogic wisdom, ancient yogic wisdom, which is so powerful. It can transform our lives completely beyond imagination. It can give you permanent happiness. So we hope and pray that by listening to these talks, you will be able to achieve permanent happiness in your life and you will be able to pass it on to your family members, to the people of our society, to people of our country and the people of this world at large. And thank you once again for being here, for listening to this talk. May God bless you. May you achieve all that you desire in life. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m. with another topic, another talk on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We are currently covering the Kaivalya chapter, which is the chapter on liberation, mukti, absolute freedom from Prakriti. I'm sure you will be interested to know more. So thank you so much, dear friends, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.